View from the Gutters, episode 26. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. On this episode, we discuss Fight Club, and to skip ahead to the recommendation section, skip to 2951. Are we rolling? Yeah.
We're rolling.
We're rolling?
I'm not ready.
We're ready.
Wait,
I'm not
hold on, we
prepared.
have to start again.
Apparently the computer wasn't ready.
We're rusty. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's episode 26 of View from the Gutters.
It is.
And I'm Andrew Chard.
I'm Joe Preddy.
I'm Tobiah Panchin.
And I'm Cade Reynolds.
And we're talking about Bike Club.
We are back again for the first time.
Yeah.
Although due to the magic of technology, we never really left you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually pretty slick. I'm amazed that came off.
It did. Yeah, your schedule making.
Yeah, that was hard too.
Yeah. We were all out of town at different times, so we had to slot all of our schedules and record way ahead of time. And
Except for me, I never leave.
yeah, edit ahead of time. But yeah.
So yeah, Bike Club. Who wants to talk about it first?
Who picked it? You picked it, right?
Yeah, I picked it.
Okay.
so-
Do you want to start? Or?
Sure. So yeah, Bike Club by Howard Chaykin and David Tischman, with art by David Hahn and colors by Brian Miller. Was not quite as good as I remembered it from the first time I read it, but I still really liked it. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I think probably my two biggest comments is that it's kind of abbreviated. Like, I was reading this and I felt like I was reading a synopsis of like a season of like a TV series, like Breaking Bad or, you know, an HBO show, The Sopranos or something. Like, I felt like this was the like cut down Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of good beats there, but it felt like there was a lot of meat missing in the middle. I think part of the reason why I liked it better when it first came out is because I was reading it in individual issues. So each thing was like a month apart for me rather than just breezing through it like I did. Like, I read it all today.
Yeah. Me too.
The other comment that I have about it, way too much narration.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, there were moments where I was like, is this Arrested Development? Is that what's happening here?
Yeah, and it's not like clever or additive narration either. It's just like it adds to that abbreviated feel of the book where it's like, we're just trying to get a lot of information into your head right away.
Right.
The whole book feels like setup.
There's a lot of information that's just dropped through narration boxes. Like, a lot of the stuff about how vampires work in this setting.
Yeah, and how like there's just like certain parts of the crime quote unquote that are solved during narration boxes, which seems a little odd. And all of it felt to me like a setup for a series that never happened, because there is no follow-up to this. Like, there is a second series, but it's not.
It's a different plot line.
Yeah, it's completely different.
But there were a lot of beats that was like, oh, this should be like the critical, like the climax moment in an episode of a TV series.
Right.
Like that after all of this buildup, it's like, oh my God, this big thing happened. But it was way too rushed for that to really be a big payoff.
It would The Sopranos would have taken like 3 seasons to get through as much content as this. I feel like, something TV has a way of just stretching out all that information and making you like really feel all the story moments because they.
Yeah, like there's like I think 3 different payoffs at the end of this last issue.
Yeah,
and those feel like the payoffs for like 3 different seasons.
Yeah,
like. There should have been this like huge build up as like Leto's character is established and he's part of the church and he isn't sure what he's going to do. And like the first season could totally end with him deciding like that he's going to leave the church and that he's going to be part of the family. When that actually happens in like issue 5.
Yeah, it happens right at the end.
Or even 6 of the series.
Yeah.
Like, you could really, really unpack this. And I think that's part of the strength of it is that there's so much packed into it, but it really needs to be decompressed.
Yeah. I think that this is a good like pilot for what could be a show kind of feel, I feel like sometimes comic book writers write a comic because they don't have the budget to like make a TV show or a movie.
Right. Or they want to use it to pitch a series.
Yeah, exactly. And so I felt like this kind of should be that, like someone should make a television show of this because there's a lot of information there and there's a lot of like good content to be had.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you were saying. I don't want to say I had problems with it.
Did you have misgivings?
I had misgivings. I'm the one that had misgivings. When one of them is most definitely me. Not it's not the fault of the book. I have a big problem with any I like my vampires to be supernatural. I like them to be strictly supernatural, and anytime anybody tries to go, "Oh, this is like a virus similar to rabies," or blah blah blah, it just irks me. And I understand the reason for doing it in this, but it still kind of set the wrong tone because it happens on like page 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And so it kind of colored my tone of it. I think there's a lot of potential there. I'm a big Chaykin fan, and I think Howard Chaykin's strength really lies in writing shit that you read and you're like, what the fuck did I just subject myself to?
And there is a bit of that in
there definitely is, but I almost feel like at times it's trying too hard to shock me, and
I agree with that.
It turns me off a little bit. I think all the beats are there. I think everything is there.
Right, like if all of those beats of him trying to shock you, particularly with the Risa character, I felt like there were times where she was just way over the top.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think if you had spread all of those moments out over 30 or 40 episodes of a TV series, they wouldn't feel nearly as overwhelming.
Yeah, there are far fewer panels with her, kind of making logical decisions. There's so many more where she just seems out of nowhere,
I'm a badass,
which
I'm
leads
a rebel, blah, blah, blah.
Which I think leads to a really good payoff in the end when you find out like how calculating and clever she actually was. But
see, and it was the opposite for me. I felt cheated because I never saw her acting in that way.
Right, and that's what I mean is like if you had more moments where it was like she was being more clever, like when she stole the band from that other guy, like that moment you should have seen her like conniving. You should have seen her like in a power struggle with another band manager to get that band, and that moment never happened.
Right, like if they had spent a huge number of issues with this like whole subplot where like with the family she acts really crazy and unhinged, but then as a manager with her record label, like she's very cunning and canny and like makes these really strong, bold moves to take what she wants.
Right.
Like, it would have really foreshadowed the ending.
We see that a couple times, like when she's getting the money from that guy and he like puts the moves on her and she stabs him in the hand, and then when they come to get the money from her and she just kills him, is like, no, you work for me now. Yeah. Like that, those are moments that kind of like show her power off, and they just were too far between. Few and far between. Yeah, they weren't there.
Yeah. I definitely feel like that should have been a 12-issue series. I feel like there's so much there that they don't get into. I'm not able to really connect with any of the characters, so what happens seems very remote to me. And I feel for this kind of, like there are times I think when you're reading a story and you can be like, okay, like I wasn't able to connect with anybody, but I still kind of enjoyed the story. And there are definitely times when I was reading this and I was kind of like, all right, this is cool, but then I feel like things would happen that just kind of threw me off, and I never knew where I was. I never really knew how to feel. I never really felt like I had time to pick sides, or it's like I think the most powerful parts of a story like this, especially when you have like The Godfather. The Godfather does this really great job of establishing sects as you go through 1 and 2, so that you know very definitely whose side you're on going into the as the plot progresses. And I feel like it was rushed, and I wonder how much of it was. I mean, I don't want to. I know very little about the book, but it, Chaykin I feel usually does a better job than that. I usually feel like Chaykin's pacing is pretty right on. So.
Yeah, this could have easily been editorial being like, write us a 6-issue miniseries.
Yeah, this is a Vertigo title.
Yeah.
It totally could have been the case where they pitched the book and DC was like, yeah, we want to do it, but we're only going to give you 6 issues.
Yeah. And that it could very well have been that, which is a shame because I think I think everybody's right. I think there's a lot there to dig into. I definitely think there's a lot there to dig into.
I think there could have been a lot more character development than there actually was. I mean, I found that there were a couple characters, most notably Leto, that I started to get a connection with. I mean, especially with the priesthood vampire thing. And so there were a couple characters, but for the most part, you just really didn't care what was going on with the other characters.
You didn't have any time.
Yeah, like exactly. They could have really eliminated... what's his name? The kid.
That's my favorite part.
Eduardo Jr.'s son.
Yeah,
I feel like his subplot could have been eliminated, and the series wouldn't have lost a whole lot.
Yeah,
because it really needed a lot more attention devoted to it to really pay off. Like, it deserved a whole lot more, but it didn't get it, and it ended up taking away from other things.
Well, it also had like a really unfulfilling conclusion too, because they just didn't have any time. Where it was like, I loved the whole father-son dynamic when he takes him to go like give her the OD, and is like, look, that's how you get back at somebody. It's how our family deals with stuff.
Yeah, it's like father-son bonding.
That was awesome. Like, that totally made up for the like lackluster story, because for a long time I was like, I don't really know why this is in here. It's kind of weird. I'm not really sure what's going on. And then that part, you like kind of see the family ties growing, and if that had happened again in like an earlier season, and then like more stuff could have happened with that character, like when we had more time to grow, that would have been great. But immediately after that, they're on a plane that blows up, and you're like, oh, well, I guess that's just over.
It definitely feels like, I mean, I feel as if everything, a lot of things in this book I found to be very expected. I was like, oh, Eduardo Jr.'s kid is all fucked up because everything's been handed to him, and he has no definition of what reality is, and blah, blah, blah. Like, that seemed just very expected to me. And then I got to the end, and it's like, and the plane blows up! And I'm like, did I like miss something? There should have been something happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the more that we talk about this, the more I want this to be a series.
Well, yeah, it feels like it should be like a series or television show or something that has more time.
It kind of is a series. It just doesn't have any of those characters in it. Because if you unpack this, you know what you'd get? You'd get True Blood.
Well, you get True Blood and The Sopranos.
Yeah,
I mean, the elements of this exist in all of these other places.
Right, which is another reason I think it would be really successful right now, is because a lot of people are like clamoring for similar things to, like, you know, that complicated inter-family drama that comes from Game of Thrones, and like a police procedural, like Law and Order, and vampires, like True Blood. Like, all of these things are working so well as separate formulas. Like, if
it seems like it would work perfectly.
Yeah, I'm surprised that no one's talking about putting this on television right now. Maybe it's just because people don't remember it, but
yeah, I mean, it kind of came and went.
Yeah, I feel like it has a place on modern television for sure, and with shows like Breaking Bad going away, like, there's definitely room for
Breaking Bad is AMC, right?
Yeah.
And they're also doing Mad Men, which is going away after, I think, next year.
Yeah.
So, like, I really feel like there's room
and also
for them to bring something like this up. Like, I think it would be perfect on AMC.
Yeah, with their success with Walking Dead, I think they would be, like, willing to try more comic book stuff.
Zombies and vampires would go together very well for, like, one jam-packed night of awesomeness.
Holy shit, if this if this was like the first season in this book, and then they started adding zombie elements, and then it was like the zombies versus the vampire mafia family.
Nothing would make me lose interest quickly. I'm so over zombies. I don't care about them.
But you could add aliens, and then you'd have turf.
And I have this thing where I cannot take vampires seriously, and maybe it's because whereas a lot of people connect with, I think, more serious vampire movies. The first vampire movie I think of is Lost Boys, and that will forever be my benchmark for vampire movies. Is Kiefer Sutherland fighting
Corey Feldman?
No,
I've never seen The Lost Boys.
Wait, really?
Wow.
It's been years since.
Wow. I can't remember his name, but he's in other movies. He's made other movies. Just trust me. I can't remember his name right now, but it's Corey Feldman's older brother.
Corey Haim?
No, Corey Haim's older brother in the movie. Corey Feldman is.
Corey Haim isn't Corey Feldman's older brother?
No.
But they have different last names.
No.
Jason Patrick is his name.
Oh, okay.
They're Korean, aren't they? Corey is their last name, just like Kim Jong Il and Kim Jong Un.
No, that's not it. And Corey Haim is dead. And a little respect, please.
I'm sorry, Ghost of Corey Haim. I didn't mean to disrespect you.
He's gonna haunt your Ouija board.
He is that character. There's no Eric from that '70s show without.
Aren't they gonna remake Lost Boys?
Probably.
Let's hope
I
not.
hope so.
They're remaking everything. They've run out of ideas.
Yay!
But
Old boy remake.
I can't take vampires seriously, and so that's why I can watch True Blood, because I'm just like, oh, you all suck except for Eric and Pam. And
I don't watch True Blood.
Two vampires, even.
You should watch True Blood
I
because
don't
it
like
is
it. I
ridiculous and over the top. It makes no
Trashy.
sense.
I watched it. I watched a little of the first season when it was like first came out. There was like a 6 episode like marathon right at the beginning. I watched all of those and was like, I have no idea what I'm watching. I'm not interested in this. Years later, my roommate was watching it in the living room, and the only part I saw was the rogue is there crying on the grave of somebody, and a dude busts out of the ground like a trapdoor spider and just has sex with her right there.
Yeah,
And
that
I was
happens
like, you
a
know
lot.
what? I'm kind of done with this show. So
That's why that show is perfect. That is
you
why
don't
that show is
understand
perfect.
Yeah, no, that's
don't.
actually one of the tamer things that's happened.
yeah, well, it did.
There's definitely a scene in season 3 where the main character Bill is having sex with his creator, and he fucking grabs her head as he's fucking railing her from behind and spins it around to face him while they're...
No, it was actually the opposite. She was face up, and he twists her head around so he doesn't have to look at her eyes.
Okay, that's what it is. That's what it is.
I think I need to watch the show again because I've forgotten those parts.
Either way, it's trashy and it's awful, and I can't help myself.
Yeah. Well, that's what this could be too, you know, like there is a lot of the trashy elements. It does kind of remind me of the like weird vampire stuff that happens in Blade. Like I kept thinking about Blade when they would like be putting makeup on to go outside and stuff.
I actually really like the stuff that he talked about with the different kinds of vampires, the alphas, the betas, and the omegas. Like I thought that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was.
I thought it was an interesting idea, but I feel like most things there was not really like, what's the difference, you know?
Well, they talk about the difference a little bit,
Yeah,
but
they went into,
like the
temperament and
the
stuff.
vampire elements don't really play too much into the series as it exists on the page.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's much more about like the family dynamic and the crime family. And the crime family part of it is even pretty subdued too, because as far as we know, all they're really into is like a weird pharmaceutical product.
The only thing that we see is Eduardo Jr. and Victor like occasionally bust into a place and murder some prostitutes.
Yeah.
Like we're told that they're like the kingpins of this one drug that's marketed to vampires.
Right.
But we don't see anything of their organization.
Yeah.
There's one scene that I
I
feel
mean, this
like...
is supposed to be like an $800 million a year industry, but like we don't see anything.
There's 8
of that.
people in this gang.
Right.
Yeah, I honestly think a better comparison is it's one part True Blood, one part Sopranos, but I also think it's one part The Godfather, because Leto coming back is very similar to Michael coming back, and you know the chosen son, the one that was out of the family business, comes back. But of course, Leto doesn't have any of Michael's like tenacity or awfulness.
Well, he has to gain it, and I think that's why it's like unfortunate that he doesn't decide to leave the priesthood until the end of the series.
Right.
Because...
Like, I mean, the whole thing is that he's run completely away from who he is as a vampire, because they keep talking about how beta vampires, which all the kids are like super aggressive, and they never had the morality of being a human. Like, and Leto is this like very, very repressed character, and they kind of talk about it a little bit obliquely a couple of times, like, oh, this is another thing that I have to confess for. Like, he has completely separated himself from his core nature.
Yeah.
And it's not really addressed because we don't see him any other way except at the very, very end.
Yeah, exactly. Like when he takes the Monsignor out to the alligator
That was a
thing
great part.
was great. And that's what should like kickstart him into being that tenacious, like take names, kick ass kind of character.
And that would be awesome if we had like a season of him being a priest and then another entire season of him being like a mafia don.
Right, exactly. And we don't ever get any time with him being like the real family leader.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are missteps.
One thing that I think is absolutely perfect is the art in this series.
Yeah.
David Hahn's line work is incredible.
Yeah, and
it's one of the things I love the best about this comic. Like, it's the thing that I remembered. I mean, it's been 6 or 7 years since I actually read it, and so I had forgotten a lot of the minor details of the plot. But just flipping through it, like the art just grabs me.
I was really
so super clean.
Yeah, I was really drawn to the coloring too, because it's interesting that
Brian's Miller, the way that he uses the color palette.
Yeah, there'll be entire pages that are basically just hues of orange or hues of red or purple, and it's really...
I mean, that's every page. Every page has a very specific color palette. It's it's orange, it's blue, it's green, it's purple, it's red, it's yellow, and it keeps changing.
Yeah.
And I was looking through it, trying to figure out if there were a particular rhyme or reason to the color palette, emotionally or in terms of the story, beyond just setting the tone of the scene. And if there is, I haven't been able to find it. But just in terms of tone setting, it works really, really well.
I was looking for characters that were showing up similar to certain colors, and that didn't line up either. But one thing I found really interesting about that is the main character, what's his name, Leto?
Yeah, Leto.
Leto is colorblind, and so he sees the whole world as shades of a singular tone, and so you are also seeing the book as shades of a singular tone, which is kind of interesting.
And I did notice that there's exactly one panel that's actually gray.
Yeah.
Right when Leto is dying.
Yeah, that's...
And I wondered if that was supposed to be that we were seeing it from his, seeing the world from his perspective.
That's what I took that to mean, for sure.
Yeah.
It's that's, you get one final POV, view from his eyes, and then
I didn't actually notice that was a different color. I'm sorry.
Well, it's on...
Are you colorblind?
No.
Okay.
It's on a page of purple, and it's black.
Yeah, it's
or
easy
green.
to miss.
It's on a green page.
Yeah, well, now I see it now that I'm looking through again, but I didn't even notice that the first time I was reading it.
Yeah. I think that
I
was
guess
really
to me
good.
the background colors started instead of being visual, they became more emotional cues. The different colors, you would read it a different way, but you didn't really recognize that you were doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you have any interest in comics as a medium and you want to know, how do I really use color to tell a story? Look at this.
Yeah, is this Brian Q. Miller?
No,
this is Brian Miller. Okay, so
it's
Brian
just
Miller.
Brian
Miller is a very well-renowned colorist in the comic industry, and he also wrote a book called, I think it's called Hi-Fi Coloring for Comics, which is or Hi-Fi Digital Coloring or something. And it's a really, really great look at how to color comics. And it comes with a CD and it's hey, here's some examples and some test pages you can do. And their website, which is kind of a support group for wannabe colorists, is really interesting. And he's actually shared a lot of his coloring knowledge with the comics creating world. So he's a very interesting guy. So I didn't realize that this was one of his books when I read it the first time.
Coming off of our first episode of The Long Run, where we talked about Transmetropolitan and Rodney Ramos a lot, the coloring that he does in that, and then reading this, it's got me really thinking about color in comics, and I'm paying a lot more attention to it.
Yeah.
And I read The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, which Chard recommended on the last podcast, and the color in that is really good too.
Yeah.
It's got a watercolor quality to it.
Yeah, I don't think Scotty Young colors that one. He used to color a lot of his own work, but he doesn't have time anymore. But he's always really good at picking a colorist that really complements his style, and so that book is very free and kind of looser line work, and so the colors really reflect the good tonality of that book.
Color is just not something that I've really paid a lot of attention to as a comic reader. And suddenly it's something that I'm actually focusing on, and I'm starting to really appreciate it.
Yeah.
In a way that I never have before.
Yeah, there's some great books for color. If you're interested, Wonderful Wizard of Oz is one of them for sure. But all of the new Invincible stuff, the new colorist that they have on that, FCO something, I can't remember his name, but he's doing a phenomenal job on the coloring on Invincible. And
color is such a big part of Invincible, so you need to have. I think they've always had great colorists.
Yeah.
Even throughout the art changes, which I also think there are a lot of books that change artists or change colorists, and then there's something off about that book. But Invincible it's consistently good.
Yeah, the art in that book is great, and the colorists really reflect that. I think that.
Yeah, I just recently grabbed a few issues of Captain Marvel to try and give it another look, because people have been talking it up, and the art in that book just completely ejects me from the story every time. I can't read more than a page or two.
Really?
For whatever, just the art style bothers me incredibly.
I still need to pick it up, but I can definitely understand.
But having good art is an incredibly important part of a comic.
Yeah.
And it's important to have the right artist.
Yeah, and a colorist who can match the tone of your book is really important too.
Right.
Toby recommended another book that has a great colorist, which is the Monster Society.
Shazam, the Monster Society of Evil.
It was Steve Haymaker, and he recolored all of Bone too, and so he's a phenomenal colorist. And he's got some videos online that are really fun to watch.
And I know that there's a color hardcover edition of Rassel, which is Jeff Smith's most recent work. It's going to be coming out in I think October, and I'd lay good odds that it's the same guy coloring that too.
Probably.
I saw that was going to be.
I really want to grab that when it comes out.
But yeah, I definitely think the art and the coloring was the strongest part of this book. And I love the cover did Quietly do all the covers or just the cover to the trade?
I think he did all the covers.
Yeah, because the cover to the trade was a cover of one of the issues.
Yeah.
I think they're all Frank Quietly.
Yeah, and I think it's some of his best. I mean, I think his covers are usually strong, but I think it's some of his best covers. Because Quietly is somebody whose art I can absolutely adore or just say...
It doesn't have the kind of crumpled up tissue paper look that his art gets sometimes.
Yeah, the clothing on some of his characters sometimes just looks wrinkly and kind of weird.
Yeah.
And their
whatever,
faces
the chin line on his characters is always kind of got this rumpled quality to it. Somebody just took a fistful of clay.
Yeah.
And just kind of mashed it
up
together.
They just look mangled and when you make a really weird face and try to give yourself as many chins as possible.
And this doesn't look like that at all.
Yeah, no, it's some of his better work.
The covers are really clean lines and really fresh faced people.
And the color work on the covers is really good too.
Yeah. Overall, I think the art on this book was really good. I enjoyed it. I liked the ideas in the book, but it was just the book read really heavy because of all the narration and because there was nothing to really unpack, and it never gave you any time with any of the characters. It just felt
there were a lot of great things about the book, just the follow through.
Yeah, it doesn't quite coalesce. But I know there's a larger format edition. I have more of a pocket sized one. It was $10, and for that price, I feel like I got my money's worth out of this comic. And if you've got $10 to spare, there are worse things that you could buy.
Yeah, but I actually think if you have $10 to spare and you don't already own either the first edition of Preacher or the first collection of Saga, that's what you should get.
Well, maybe they do.
Well, if you do, then by all means, spend that $10 on whatever you'd like. If you want to buy yourself a hot dog and a soda, do that.
Basically, what I'm saying is that it's a good enough comic that I would recommend that somebody check it out. Wouldn't be the first thing that I say to get, but if somebody was like, I love vampires and mafia stories.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I would say check out Fight Club.
I'd say start with Turf, but holding that back, if you only have $10, then check out Fight Club.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I don't know that I would ever come up in conversation, but if somebody was like, hey, is Fight Club any good? I'd be like, yeah, give it a read.
Yeah.
I mean, check it out.
Yeah.
So a glowing recommendation from all. We enjoyed it. It's a fun book.
I would give it a B-.
Yeah.
I would give
maybe a straight B.
I would probably give it a 6 or 7 out of 10. But it's like I said, part of that is me. So
I'm gonna give it a crocodile needs work.
I think that's clearly, and there you have it. A crocodile needs work.
Come on, that's at least worth a check plus.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure a check plus is the best thing you can give a book.
Yeah, I don't think so. No,
I think there's a check plus, check minus system.
No. It goes check plus, straight plus, then double plus.
Oh. Well, this is a whole new system I'm not aware of.
I was not aware of this system at all.
I'm very confused.
My whole world's been turned upside down.
As a note, I did go to a Rosicrucian kindergarten.
Oh, see, not only
so it may have been a different system.
The reason he has misgivings all the time is because he's sitting on top of a whole bunch of treasure. That's what it is.
Treasure?
Yeah, Rosicrucians.
The Order of the Rosy Cross?
Rosicrucians.
They're a secret society. Yeah,
I know, yeah.
They have treasure.
They don't have any treasure.
Yeah, isn't that the Templar Island that got flooded?
That is a completely different secret society.
Are you sure?
They're related somehow.
They're not. They're totally not.
I'm pretty sure they are. Haven't you read Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco?
You mean Foucault?
No, it's Foucault.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure you're wrong. It's Foucault's Pendulum.
Pretty sure I'm not wrong here. Just saying.
Okay.
Do you want to do? Should we do Rex now? Maybe.
Yeah, let's do recommendations.
Before we get taken off the air for talking about secret societies.
Oh my God, they're coming, bro.
Well, they're defunct.
We'll have to pull this song off our album like Jay-Z.
Awful. Who wants to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I will go first.
Go
Do
for
it,
Yeah,
Toby.
your recommendation. You should go first.
Okay, so this week I brought Gunnerkrigg Court Orientation, which is the first volume of Gunnerkrigg Court. It's actually a webcomic. It started in about 2006 by a guy named Tom Siddell, and he's published, I think, 4 hardcover print editions. There's something like 43 chapters, and this is the first 14. It's a little bit similar to Harry Potter in form, if not in function. The main character is this girl named Antimony Carver, and her father is kind of this very distant character. He never actually shows up in the comic. Her mother has just recently died, and Antimony has been sent to this boarding school called Gunnerkrigg Court. And she makes friends with this other girl named Kat, and they kind of have kind of slightly sciencey, slightly magical adventures in the school, but it's also more than the school. It seems to be this like vast complex, and it's across this chasm from a magical forest. And so they run into like ghosts and fairies and robots and all kinds of weird stuff. But Antimony also has the power to see the shepherds of the dead. And there's some implication that maybe she's not entirely human and may have something to do with all of that. And it's a really weird, really fun story. If you liked kind of the magical schoolboy adventure elements of Harry Potter, it's not actually about, or Gunnerkrigg Court isn't actually about wizards, but it's got kind of that same feel where they're in this weird place and they're discovering secrets and there's all this history going on, dealing with Antimony's parents and the parents of Kat, who were all friends when they were at the school, when they were kids. The art starts out a little bit rough, but it gets a lot better over the course of the series, so that even by the end of the first volume, it's vastly better than at the very beginning. But it's an all ages book. I loaned it to Joe's daughter a few weeks ago, and she absolutely loved it.
Yeah, she totally did.
And you can read the whole thing online.
I thought this was a reality show, like a courtroom.
No.
Gunnerkrigg Court.
Gunnerkrigg Court. Like Judge Joe Brown or something.
I'm not going with you on that one.
You're not going with me on that one?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Reinhold's courtroom?
Mr.
No?
Some of the art looking through this is kind of giving me a Honan Vasquez vibe, which I think is pretty cool.
Do you say Honan? I always thought it was Jonan.
That's a weird name.
Yeah,
it is a weird name.
I've always heard it as Jonan, but I've been wrong once.
I'm not going to go all Foucault over this, because you could absolutely be right, and I have no idea.
I have no idea. I've just always heard it that way. So
I'm going to find a video of 20 people saying Foucault, and then I'm going to hit Toby over the head with it.
You're going to burn it to a DVD and then transfer it to a VCR tape, to VHS tape, so you can hit them with it?
Betamax. They're a little heavier.
Yeah. Just on a reel-to-reel, so you can hit them with it. All right.
Oh, especially if you get one of the heavy metal.
Oh, the metal reels.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be perfect. Oh, and it's in like a reel canister.
Definitely.
And then that would probably damage Toby.
One of the nice things about this series too is if you actually do end up wanting to buy it in print, I looked on Amazon today and you can find all of it's all full color hardcovers, and they're like $19 each.
Nice. And it's
the back says 26, but they were cheaper on Amazon.
It's Archaea Press, Archaea Studios.
Yeah, Archaea Studios Press.
They always put out a really quality. Well, that's me.
That was not me.
That was not Joe this time.
Wow. That's a first time for everything.
Yeah.
Shit, I thought that was an actual fire alarm.
It was an alarm.
The street.
Yeah.
It was an alarm.
It was a fire alarm.
So
I don't know what that alarm is for, but.
So, Cade, you want to go next?
I was going to say first, they always put out a really good product. They're the guys that put out the Killer hardcover and also Oko, the samurai stories.
The Killer is good.
And I should probably, you could probably just Google for Gunnerkrigg Court, but I think it actually is gunnerkriggcourt.com is the website where you can read the entire series for free.
Yep. All right, Cade, what do you got?
Okay, so it's been a while since I've read this, but it was something that I was thinking about when I was reading Bite Club, and it's really bad, and I don't think we should actually read it, but I want to put it on the recommendations list.
Well, now I'm going to vote for it.
And that is Batman Dracula.
Red Rain?
No, the first one, right?
There's two of them.
There's Batman, Dracula, Red Rain, and there's Red Rain 2, isn't there?
I think it's the first one then.
Oh God, that's not bad. That's amazing.
Okay, it's like it's one of those like movies that was supposed to be bad, but then it's like really campy, but you just enjoy yourself the entire time.
Absolutely.
And
Batman's ears have never been longer.
He needs long ears. That's where the communications equipment goes.
Well, there's radar in there.
You know what?
It's one of the many ways that Batman and Wolverine are similar, which is to say that the larger the ears on their little costume are, the better they are.
That's true.
Wolverine with short ears wasn't good.
Batman would kick Wolverine's ass. Just saying.
Yeah, well, Dark Claw could beat both of them.
Well,
so
I think the only real
because
way
he has all the powers of both of those people.
At this point,
I think the only way to solve it,
bringing up Dark Claw.
I think the only way that they could solve it is in like a beard growing, let's go feral fight, and Batman and Wolverine have a beard off.
Well, they would never. In that case, they would never actually fight because they would just go to their respective like solo places and be like, morose. And
that's
emo.
fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I don't think
there would never be a fight.
I don't think anyone would miss them, to be honest.
You could be right. I mean, I think Batman would be.
If I were the king of comics, I would give them that title that they are both in, where nothing ever happens, to preserve the rest of the comic universe from those characters being in any other story.
They
just like hang out together in the Batcave or wherever
apparently
Wolverine
you guys
hangs
aren't
out.
interested in comics time where a character can be multiple places at once.
Well, this is if I was the king of comics.
There's also
but if you were the king of comics, everything would read by like either like Hellboy or some obscure European thing that we'd never heard of.
You mean Mobius?
No, we've heard of that.
But just saying it as a general term.
Just make up one. We won't even know.
Yeah, it's like.
Oh, you mean like Larful Kugel?
Either Windsor McKay or.
So for the next long run, we are now going to read the entire canon of Tintin.
No, we're going to read.
What's happening.
I would be okay with that.
I like
love
that.
Tintin.
We're going to read Larful Kugel, which is a book you've probably never heard of.
Wow, I don't think you understand that what happened when he said that is all of a sudden he was wearing a plaid shirt and pants that were 2 sizes too small for him.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable.
It was
itchy.
Yeah.
Did you want to say anything else about Batman, Cade?
I'm sorry, we've totally hijacked.
Yeah,
that's okay. No, it's like it's supposed to be this really bad and campy book, and it's just one that I've always really enjoyed because you can just laugh at it and have a good time.
I think it is very campy, and
I think that sometimes that's important.
Yeah.
Especially in a Batman book, who I think Batman can be entirely too serious sometimes. So
I think that we have previously established that Batman funnies are the best funnies
because it's like everything else he does.
So read it. Just if you hate it, then you hate it. But
if you hate it, then you have no soul, and you should not be listening to it.
But you may have incredible taste.
If you hate it, you probably think that the new DCU is like the best thing ever, in which case we don't want you listening to the show.
Not mutually exclusive.
Don't cast aspersions on our audience.
Pretty sure that you could not like Red Rain and still like good comics.
I think at this point is not a good person. Okay?
I think that everybody has the right and the power, the agency, to hate the New 52.
I absolutely agree with you. I do. I absolutely.
Are they still making comics, DC?
I've
been gone for a month. I wasn't sure.
I heard that they were gonna. I don't know. Like
you heard
believe it or not,
here first, folks. Joe agreed with Tobiah
about. I've already. Oh, that because the one thing we do agree on wholeheartedly is that for the most part, the New 52 is awful.
For the record, I have been reading the previews of Trinity War, and I didn't think it was possible, but DC Comics have actually gotten dumber.
It's like jumping the Sharknado.
Yes, exactly.
That's really what they're doing. It's a step beyond jumping the shark. It's that bad.
Sharknadoes make everything better.
It's true. It's true. That's what the actual Trinity War should have been about. Actually, I've decided with a few friends that this whole villains take over bullshit is actually going to end with with a close-up of an office building, and they're going to zoom in, and it'll be like a page of panels of them kind of zooming in, and then it'll zoom in on this table, and it'll be Bob Harris, Jim Lee, and Jeff Johns, and they'll all be like steepling their fingers and cackling, and then it'll like shift over, and it'll focus on a point like immediately behind them where Superboy Prime has got his top of his skull pried off, and they're basically projecting all his awful fan fiction like onto a screen, and that's what they're using as the basis for all their stories. That's what's going to happen.
And then the Sharknado comes?
And then the Sharknado comes.
Okay, I was
and
confused
everything,
as when that
it
was
goes from being like
happening.
the most brilliant piece of satire ever written to awesome. Just sheer awesome at that point. And everybody orgasms and goes home.
Oh, I forgot. I had a point that I was going to make when we were talking about Wolverine, but I just thought of it because, like, how cool would this Sharknado be in the Marvel universe, though? Because you could have Tiger Shark, like, in the Tiger Sharknado.
Damn.
He could use a power upgrade.
That would be much more powerful than a Black Manta.
There's like Whirlwind, right? Is that a Marvel character?
There is a Marvel character called Whirlwind.
So Whirlwind and Tiger Shark could team up to make Tiger Sharknado.
It would be the greatest appearance of the Ray ever.
Oh yeah.
But there's a shark character in Kanjar Ro is a shark, isn't he? He's a Green Lantern.
I don't know who that is.
He's an alien.
Yeah, but he looks like a shark.
That's not the same thing as a shark.
You can call him an alien, but he's a shark man.
Not a shark. He's clearly an alien, Jim.
You should use his power ring to make a tornado full of him.
No, he doesn't. No. He's a villain. He doesn't have a power ring. At least I hope not. Because
maybe he's got a
power ring. That's like my worst nightmare.
All right, I am declaring fiat that all Sharknado-related conversation is over.
Okay.
And then Charge recommend a book.
2, though, my other point, we were going to talk about Marvel Universe. We were talking about Wolverine, and I had a brainstorm. What if all the Wolverines in the Marvel Universe are all from different Marvel universes?
Crisis on Infinite Wolverine.
Yeah, like what if that's what happened to the Exiles? Like that's what they did is they just like went and got all of them.
They'll do a thing where they kill off a bunch of them, and then there's only one at the end. That's what'll happen. They'll be like, Barry Windsor Smith, Weapon X, Wolverine, die.
No, what I'm actually pretty sure happened at one point is Wolverine got like cut in two, and both halves regenerated, and then there were just two Wolverines.
He's like a starfish.
Actually, I think what happens is every time he gets like a chunk, he's like a starfish. Like every chunk, every finger
becomes like a whole
new Wolverine.
I like that.
I think I was telling Joe about this. I want to write the story where Wolverine's powers get like driven into overdrive, and he just starts budding smaller Wolverines off of him like a fungus.
I like that. That seems like that could be a Deadpool like power set that would happen, but I would much rather see it on Wolverine.
We need to get Grant Morrison to write it.
Yeah.
We call it Infinite Wolverine.
Oh.
Crisis.
Well, that comes after.
Wolverine Crisis.
Hyper Crisis.
Chard, please recommend a book.
Speaking of Wolverine, this is a good segue because your book is by somebody who wrote one of my favorite runs on Wolverine, even though he doesn't think very highly of it.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe.
I gave you a gift. I gave you a segue.
That was a thank you.
You're welcome.
Book I'm recommending this podcast is Batwoman Elegy by Greg Rucka and J.H. Williams III. This is the first appearance of Batwoman post countdown 52.
Yeah.
And this was what kind of should have happened right after 52, but took like 2 years to come out. But this is a story about Batwoman being Batwoman. If you don't know anything about Batwoman,
she is a person.
Yeah, she's dresses up like a bat. No, she is a character that Greg Rucka created during the 52 run, and she's actually a reboot of an old.
There have been Batwomen going back to I think the 40s or the 50s. The original one was Betty Kane, I believe.
Yeah. But this is a character not related to the origin of any of those characters.
Although her last name is also Kane.
Correct. But she is the daughter of a soldier or an ex-soldier or something, and he runs her tactical. She's her oracle, or he is her oracle, essentially. And her mom died, and she decided to take up the mantle of Batwoman and fight crime. And much in the same way of many Bat family. And this is a story of her kind of fighting against her first super villain
I haven't read the whole thing. I read the first issue, I think. And I really like the art.
The art is phenomenal.
But J.H. Williams III is...
He captures so many different tonalities within the same book. It's really impressive. The scenes where she's not Batwoman are drawn completely differently than the scenes when she is Batwoman.
And I can see Joe flipping through it from over here. And is this the first time that she does the thing where she, like, does the really high kick and, like, pins a guy to a wall by the neck with her boot? Because I noticed that there was a habit of, like, every single time that she appeared, the artist did that exact same move. Like, it seems
I don't remember if that was here or in 52 first.
Maybe it might have been in 52 first.
I think it happens in 52.
It seems to happen a lot.
Yeah.
Or
well,
at least
it's just a good move. It's just a good fighting move to pin someone to a wall with your high-heeled boot move. But
actually, very specifically, she's not wearing high-heeled boots. She's wearing red combat boots, which is something I was very appreciative of.
She does wear combat boots in these.
Happy about.
She's fighting against a villain who's Alice in Wonderland themed. So there's very like.
Is it the Mad Hatter?
No, it's Alice. She calls herself Alice, and it's like a brand new supervillain in the Bat family that is essentially Batwoman's first like themed supervillain.
Her own nemesis.
Yeah, her own deal.
Whatever.
And a lot of it is about the origin of the character. There's lots of flashbacks, and it's the character coming into her own and finding her place in the Bat family. And I believe at this point in time, Batman is not around, so it's a good time for her to kind of come into her own.
What was that when Dick Grayson was Batman?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Bruce is not around, is what I should say. It's really good. It's now getting a follow-up finally. Written by J.H. Williams III, not associated with Greg Rucka because he was like shunned out of DC.
Yeah.
He was very upset.
The first of many.
Yeah, and
unfortunately,
he got out at the right time, I think.
Yeah. Honestly, with all the shit that DC has pulled in the last couple of years, it's just as good that good writers aren't working for them anymore.
So
they have a handful still, but I don't understand how they've managed to. I mean, I think it's because they've been writing titles that are out of the way. I think I've said it before. I think Birds of Prey was really good. Demon Knights was really good. And there were a few other here and there that were not terrible. Batwing was good, but I realized what my problem with Batwing is that I can't bring myself to care about the character.
Yeah.
It was great, which really made me wonder why the hell Judd Winnick, or even if Judd Winnick was really writing Catwoman, because Catwoman was so fucking awful.
I know that this is a total tangent, but speaking of great writers working on comics that are out of the way, I just read today, which will have been 2 weeks ago when you actually listen to this, that Peter Allen David is wrapping up his run on X Factor at issue like 258 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I did not realize that comics was still going after issue like 58. So now I'm really anxious to get caught up on it.
It's really good.
Because it was really good. I just kind of lost track of it.
Yeah, me too, but I think I lost track of it in like the hundreds. But even it just like I was enjoying it.
Apparently, it's just been going and going with all these like kind of out of the way characters. Longshot's been a part of it. M, who first started out on Generation X, Jamie Madrox and Strong Guy, and a lot of the old X Factor characters are there too.
Yeah,
and apparently it's just been kind of plodding along for like 10 years.
Yeah, sometimes they lose characters to events and then like pick stuff up later. And Layla Miller was floating around in there for a long time, and
but I
Wolfsbane.
Yeah, she's still in there. I found out about this partly because the news site that I was looking at was basically like they're finally wrapping up the connection between Longshot and Shatterstar, which has been this plot point that has kind of just been out there for like 10 or 15 years and no one has ever wrapped up before. And so I read what it was. I'm not going to say what it was because it's a spoiler, but I was pleasantly amused by the way it was resolved.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great series.
So now I want to go and check it out.
Yeah.
And you should too.
Yeah. All right, Joe, what'd you bring?
I brought a book I've been wanting to bring to the podcast for a while. It's Ramon K. Perez's realization of a screenplay by Jim Henson and Jerry Jewell. And this is before, I think, even Jim Henson did The Muppet Show. This is the... I'm pretty sure this is the 60s. So it's odd. It's abstract. It's very surreal. But... it's visually stunning. There's not a whole lot of dialogue in it. It's told mostly through the pictures, so I think it forces you to interact with it.
You haven't told us the title yet.
It's called The Tale of Sand. I'm sorry. Wow, I totally spaced that. It's really because I've been waiting to bring this book in for so long that I totally got right into selling it before I told you what it was called. Jim Henson and Jerry Jules, The Tale of Sand, as realized by Ramon K. Perez. And it's gorgeous.
It really is.
It's really, and I think it's impressive. I think that they managed to tell a story that's pretty amazing without using very much dialogue at all. It's all images, and some of them are very disjoint and very surreal, as I said before, very dreamlike, but it doesn't come off to me as being pretentious or trying too hard. It feels very natural. And it's one of my favorite things to read. I bought it on the insistence of a friend, and I was quite pleased because I had picked it up several times. And it's a really nice edition too. It's got like the little thing to keep your place, and
it's got a little like elastic band like you see on a Moleskine journal.
Yeah. So it's very nice. I think it's a very nice edition.
Who's the publisher?
Archaea.
Is it the same?
Yeah, Archaea Studios.
Yeah, so,
same as Gunnerkrigg Court.
Yeah. So then, they put out some very quality stuff, and I like it because for the foreword, they use the background of the foreword and the introduction, and the lead into the actual comic art is the actual the screenplay in the background. So it's kind of a nice touch because it definitely gives you the feeling of like going into like moving from the text into the interpretation, which I think gives it a very nice feel. So cool. I think it's great. I brought it because I really want to talk about it. I think it's something we could really get into, and it's beautiful. It's so pretty.
Excellent.
All right, Toby, what would you like to read?
I'm going to vote for The Tale of Sand. Okay. Joe has been talking about this incessantly for like 6 months, so I really want to read it now. Like I really do, and not just to shut him up.
I'm surprised you didn't read it before.
Well, he was loaned out to another mutual friend of ours.
Yeah, a friend of mine had it,
and Joe just got it back.
Tale of Sand for me as well.
Joe, what do you want to read?
I was going to vote for. I was actually going to vote for Batman Red Rain. Even though I do want to read Gunnerkrigg Court, and I am interested in Batman. Actually, I would probably...
Batwoman.
I would probably vote for Gunnerkrigg Court.
Yeah.
It's very hard. I found Batwoman a very challenging character for me to get into. Mostly because I don't think she's necessary. And I don't mean that in a way like... I really believe that if you want to introduce female characters, that they should not be defined by the male characters that are already around. I really would have liked Kate Kane's character to be somebody that was not defined in terms of Batman.
Yeah.
And it bothers me to no end that she is, because I think you're hobbling her right out of the gate.
Well, I think what happens a lot of times with these publishers is the best way to sell a new character is to relate them to a previously existing character. And it just so happens that 99.9% of all superhero characters in the DC universe are male.
And I understand that, and I understand that they are, Batman to DC and to Warner Brothers is a property. It's an intellectual property, and they're going to capitalize to that on the best of their extent. However, it makes Batwoman I feel like, for me personally, she starts the race, already 5 seconds behind, because I'm having to overcome the fact that right off the bat, however strong and able and well she's written, as I'm sure she is because Rucka writes great characters, she's having to overcome already being in the shadow of a male character.
Well, what's interesting about Batwoman, I think, too, is she's so outside of the Bat family that it is totally unnecessary that she's called Batwoman. But absolutely. What I think that she finds is somehow she finds a connection to the fact that like her mom was murdered, and she is now gonna like take up the mantle. But I don't know if they ever explain the fact that like she knows that that's why Batman is Batman.
Yeah,
because like that only really makes sense if like she knows that Batman is Batman because his parents were murdered.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's an open secret in the superhero community that Batman's parents are dead. Maybe even if you don't know who they are.
Yeah,
it's possible. I don't talk about it much. It's
because I mean she is lovers with Renee Montoya, who is the new Question.
Correct.
And she probably knows Batman on some level.
Well, she's dead in the New 52.
Well, yeah, I'm not talking about the New 52.
But yeah, no.
Yeah, this is pre-New 52.
Did Renee Montoya know?
I know that, well, she was on Gotham Central, so she knows Bruce Wayne and Batman. Like separately, but I don't know. She doesn't really know them.
I don't think
she
knows.
Well.
I mean, there's like a handful of people.
There still is that kind of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon line of connection.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I think that that's the one thing to latch onto about Batwoman is like she is like taking on the spiritual succession of Batman by saying like, oh, I also don't want that. And the icon in the DC universe too, like means a lot to have like the bat symbol on you like makes, you know, criminals like respect you and fear you like right out the gate. So and something that happens in Batwoman, I don't remember if it's in this or if it's in 52, but Batman comes to her and is like, you can't wear that, like you're not associated with me, like why are you around? And so like a lot of her character is overcoming the fact that like people don't really want her.
If it's in the New 52, it's at the very end. Because Batman's on sabbatical throughout most of that.
Of 52?
Yeah. He like goes up to the Himalayas to meditate or something.
Oh, yeah. He takes Robin and...
and I think...
It's probably in this then. Although it could be in the Question 5 Books of Blood or whatever, the follow-up to 52 that could be, that happens. Or Countdown. I don't know.
Just for the record, what are you voting for, Charge?
Oh, I really want to read... what is it? Gunnerkrigg Court?
Yeah.
Yeah, but... That would force a tie, so I'm going to go ahead and vote for Batman, Red Rain, Dracula, so that we don't have a tie.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I'm by all means not saying don't read Batwoman. Read it, because by all accounts, it's great. It's actually one of the stronger books of the New 52 as well, because J.H. Williams III has taken over, I think...
The writing
and the art.
Yeah.
And so it's still... is beautiful. I've said some things about it in the past due to misinterpretations that were not exactly correct. So if you hear me bitching in early episodes about this, please disregard it.
They just disregard you all the time, Joe.
They should.
You don't need a disclaimer.
If you disregard me, it's at your own peril.
Are you not muting Joe on the podcast anymore? I mean, I thought that we were just like covering up his voice with like the sound of a duck quacking.
This is why
I am still doing that.
I'm going to.
I'm too lazy for that.
Yeah.
Now that you're on your own channel, though, it's a lot easier.
I am this fucking podcast.
Are you?
Right? I am this podcast.
Are you?
You guys are my fucking backup band, all right? This is Joe Preddy and the overly opinionated hipsters.
Joe,
I don't think
you're the bassist in this band. I'm sorry.
I'm not the bassist in this band.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll tell you what. Try having a fucking halfway decent band without a bassist. All right. You're right. I am the bassist because I'm the fucking spine of this goddamn podcast.
I have one word for you, Joe. Replaceable.
Yeah. Give it a shot. Go ahead. You think I have a lovely lady to spend my Friday nights with? All right. I would lose
but
nothing
you're
by not
here
doing
with
this.
us instead.
I can just bitch at the internet about the things I don't like about comic books.
That's what we're doing
anyway,
here.
I think that is the end of this podcast. So read The Tale of Sand, and we'll see you next episode.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.